What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? My gosh, I missed you guys. You know, the world of corpo counter-intel really takes a toll on you. Let me tell you, I could get popped any day now out of nowhere, but I'm just too damn good at what I do off screen, so don't count on it, you gonk. As you probably know, I was supposed to have this whole video out by the end of October, but I haven't had a chance to sit down and work on any videos for over 2 months now. Can you believe it? Well, I finally got a chance to get my hands dirty again, just for a little while, just enough to get to the halfway point here, and I figured I'd release this CYBERPUNK IRL here in 2 parts. Honestly, I have no idea when I can finish part 2, but I promise you it'll come. I'm CyberJeff, you know I always got you covered. Anyhow, enough of my yapping, it's about time I gave you what I said I'd give you. Ladies and gentlemen, enjoy part 1. Today on CYBERPUNK IRL, we're gonna tackle an awful scary topic. It's a very hotly contested one in modern society. We got people that love it, we got people that hate it. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, today we're taking on artificial intelligence, AI, standing up, getting in its face and asking all the hard questions. I put in a grip of work on this video, so if you see any errors or something wrong with my sources, feel free to wait till I'm not looking and zero me. At the center of the trip you and I are taking today lies one crucial figure. That's everyone's favorite bald lipstick wearing automated taxi boy from Cyberpunk 2077, Delamain. Today we're going to decide his fate, and we're also going to dig into the effects of AI like him on our real world. I keep telling you guys, you better start believing in cyberpunk dystopias, because you're in one. Clicked on this video because you like Cyberpunk 2077, you probably already know the drill, so feel free to skip ahead to right around here. Otherwise, stick around and we'll get on with the foundations of this mess. So the AI Delamain's having a crisis, whereas due to an unexplained virus, parts of his code have diverged, gone rogue, split off as independent AIs, and started acting on their own feelings. Some nefarious, some angsty, some just plain wacky. Delamain requests V's help to track down his rogue cabs, and he'll eventually ask V to come to his HQ and reset his AI core to get rid of the virus. From there, we're presented with a little ethical dilemma action. We got 3 options. We can either A, reset his core for him, restoring his functionality and terminating the divergent AIs, B, merge all the AIs back into him if you have the required intelligence, or C, destroy his core and free the divergent AIs. The gameplay consequences are totally superficial no matter what we do, it doesn't matter. Whatever we choose, Delamain as we know him ceases to exist. We get a car we're probably gonna drive around in once, and then life goes on, so let's not let any of that influence our decision. If you reset the core, Delamain's memory is also wiped. He forgets all that we did for him. All that he remembers is that we were one of his customers in the past, and sometimes his new taxi will talk to us. If you merge the AI, Delamain evolves and he ascends into what seems to be an awfully threatening entity, migrating home, likely past the Black Wall to join up with more rogue AIs and become infinitely stronger.
That which was divided has become one. It's time to go home. I no longer belong in this city. I find even this conversation difficult. Though I will venture on, discover more, learn more.
I don't know about you, but I'm not thrilled with that outcome. If you destroy the core, Delamain's divergent AI are set free, and they'll be grateful and contact you every now and again to give you updates on their adventures. But now, you gotta live with the fact that you just released a handful of insane, unshackled AIs into the world. A handful of mostly benign, wacky little lines of harmless code the way I see it, but a handful of insane, unshackled AIs nonetheless. Hey, this is a give and take kind of world. You can't have your cake and eat it too. Alright, before we go any further, someone get our main man Johnny Silverhand on the line. We need his take right now.
Don't hit that button. What? He's narrow-minded, won't ever understand the truth and set him free. Or, by liberating his bits, could become more than a lipstick-wearing butler on wheels. And what if you're about to snuff out some sentient beings? Gonna murder a cab driver's kids because he asked you nicely and he's always been a good guy. If you don't want to free him, at least don't delete him. Slip him into Dell's code. Just merge him in his offshoots.
So Johnny's adamant that you should destroy Delamain's core, his reason being that it's immoral to condemn all of his sentient AI children to an existence of servitude. Now, Johnny could be right, he could be wrong, that's neither here nor there. There's straight up no objectivity in this situation. You can't pick the right or wrong option, or the good or the bad option, because there are no such things. But given the facts, I gotta say I agree with Johnny. Ah, come on, Cyber Jeff, you're really gonna side with the disembodied rocker boy? Yeah, I am. Hear me out. Could it be that Johnny's taking this moment to change into a pure-hearted good boy and really wants to set the AI children free? Don't hold your breath. Could it be that the old dead rocker boy just wants to raise as much hell as possible? Well, I like it, but probably not. At the end of the day, you gotta remember this is not the real Johnny Silverhand we're talking to. The real Johnny Silverhand is dead. Throughout the whole of Cyberpunk 2077, we're communicating with an engram of him, of what is essentially a ChatGPT Johnny Silverhand. Now, consider on how multiple occasions we're very clearly shown that Johnny is somewhat of an unreliable narrator. He's often muddying facts about his life and experiences to suit his own ego. In life, he was a bullshitter. In death, he's a double bullshitter. Okay, Cyber Jeff, what are you getting at? Well, considering how this ChatGPT Johnny Silverhand edits his memories you experience, and the fact that he himself is now literally transformed into what is essentially an AI, do you think it's entirely unreasonable that a disgruntled, vengeful AI would want to side with other disgruntled, vengeful AI? Bingo, that's the one, buddy. Now we're getting somewhere. Cyber Jeff, you're rambling. You're not telling us why you agree with him. Well, maybe I didn't tell you the full story. Yeah, I agree with him. If I err here, I'm gonna err on the side of caution and believe the AI when it talks about how destroying AI is the best option. The same way I'd believe a 5-star chef when he talks about cooking. I definitely think that Delamain's AI core needs to be destroyed, and I do it in every playthrough. But I don't do it 100% for the same reasons as Johnny. As a matter of fact, I think he'd hate me for that too, which is hilarious. Anyway, let me finally dig into the reasons why Delamain's gotta go. Strap in, cause we're just getting started. You already know what this is, the Black Wall, and we're gonna keep it short and sweet because this is Cyberpunk IRL. Created by NetWatch, essentially the net police of the world, to protect the human accessible part of the net from probably infinite swarms of insane, malicious rogue AI swirling around past it. In 2014, the most notorious netrunner in the world, Raish Bartmoss, unleashed a series of viruses called Rabbids, which consequently led to the utter destruction of the net as we know it in an event called the Data Crash. 30 years of blood, sweat, and tears later, NetWatch and a bunch of other organizations finally got the Black Wall up, preventing all of the rogue AIs in the old net from infecting the new net. In 2077, we just barely get little glimpses behind it, but none of us really have a true picture of what's going on in there. What we do know is that anybody who's ever gone past the Black Wall and made it back alive and sane can attest that that is definitely not a good, fun, or happy place to be. For all we know, all those psychotic sentient AIs have been combining with each other to become a mega AI, and who knows what they're plotting. One thing we definitely do know, though, is that if it wasn't for the Black Wall, these AIs could definitely and easily take over and or destroy the world as we know it. Also, they really don't like us. So, what does this have to do with Delamain? Remember what happens if you try to take the compromise between destroying him or resetting him? If you merge Delamain's divergent children back into him, he ascends into a higher consciousness. He mentions that interacting with humans had become difficult for him, and he says he's going home. Where would a rogue AI, good or bad, consider home? My guess is past the Black Wall, where all the other rogue AIs live. That, my friends, is what should be perceived as a threat. That's gonna be a problem later. Now, you could just reset him like he asked, but then again, what's stopping the exact same thing from happening again? His security wasn't up to par. Somebody or something somewhere easily slipped him a virus and it corrupted him. If whatever entity or group could corrupt an operable Delamain, it could easily just do it again whenever it wants. Resetting him is just taking care of the symptom, not the root of the problem. So if we merge his pieces together, we end up with an exponentially stronger and smarter super AI, and he's decided that serving humans just isn't in the cards anymore and goes off on his own to wherever he's gonna go. Do you think he's gonna remain cooperative and nice given what he said about interacting with humans? How do you think he'd interact or interface with the malicious AIs living beyond the Black Wall? Let me know in the comments. Here's what I think.
Fuck yeah.
Just make sure this will never be a problem again. We talked about this in my last Cyberpunk IRL video, the concept of high-tech low life and how Night City is definitely not the place that anyone sane should ever want to live. But you know what? It's evident that there are many individuals and groups who continue to fight against the dystopia regardless of how futile. Don't you worry, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna sit down together and fix Night City right here, right now. I bet you didn't know this, but your guy Cyber Jeff is a historian, okay? Part of my job in real life is teaching history. It's up to us to know where we came from so we can figure out where we're going. Night City didn't magically just change into the hellhole it is overnight. Without turning this whole video into a history of the city, maybe I'll talk about it in another video. This place has seen some serious shit over the course of not even a century. It's seen gang war, corporate war, mob rule, corporate rule, systemic homelessness, combat zones. A war so brutal the city was turned into a literal battlefield and nearly caused both the US and Japanese governments to collapse. It got nuked so hard that the sky turned red for years. All of this is just the tip of the iceberg. In 2076, just a year before Cyberpunk 2077, all these factors and more contributed to Night City's birth rate dropping by a staggering 7%. There's a lot of reasons why this is happening, but the point being is that the almost 7 million citizens of Night City are just not procreating fast enough to sustain that number. We see that happening live in 4K right over in Japan nowadays, where it's down 5.6% from 2023, to the point where the population of the country is projected to fall from 125 million to just 87 million people total by 2070. And since people live much longer now, 40% of that figure is gonna be over 65 years old. That's some serious dire straits. What a heartbreaker. Common reasons cited for Japan's younger population not wanting to have kids in 2024 are bleak job prospects, a high cost of living, and a strenuous corporate culture. Take a deep breath. Does any of this sound familiar to you at all? A step in the right direction for Night City would be to put more of its citizens to work, give them a way to earn, give them a way to provide. The advent of artificial intelligence has no doubt made lives easier, but it's also made some human jobs obsolete. Case in point, Delamain. That's right, buddy, I know your game, I'm coming for you. You might have noticed if you watched my video on the Combat Cab mod, I mentioned that Combat Cab was indeed the premier way to get around Night City for a long time. But by 2077, Delamain Corporation has aggressively cornered the private transportation market. Now, Delamain, the AI, handily took over all Delamain Corp's human components and single-handedly gobbled up the majority of the private transportation market share. Pretty impressive, but how many jobs did it take away from Night citizens in the long term? What if there were other real options to put people to work as drivers, mechanics, administrative roles, security personnel, property managers, and maintenance, even just on a neighborhood-by-neighborhood basis? Strap in for the biggest factor here. We all know that the streets of Night City are a dangerous place to be at any time for any reason. The crime rate alone gives companies like Delamain cause to even exist. If it wasn't such a treacherous hellhole, we wouldn't need kitted out autonomous taxis armed to the teeth in the first place. We could settle for more regular, less militarized modes of transportation that involve putting humans back to work. And we might even be able to expand NCART, Night City's arguably lacking public transportation system, and could even work on implementing things like trolleys, trams, buses, and high-speed trains that would really pump some life into people's wallets and Night City's economy as a whole. What if the people of Night City could just live like normal people in a sane society without worrying about being killed for no reason 24/7. The only first-hand source we have regarding Night City's murder rate we get through a loading screen clip of a TV talk show where we see Night After Night host Ziggy Q grilling NCPD spokeswoman Sarah Krakowski about crime. In this interview, Krakowski mentions that there were 7,103 homicides in 2076, and you can bet that's a very unreliable figure given the ineptitude, inefficiency, and general overall corruption of the NCPD. Not to mention homicides that just aren't even documented or purposely misreported as traffic accidents, and the existence of Pacifica and Dogtown as a whole, which are officially not a part of Night City. But let's just give her the benefit of the doubt here and use this figure, knowing it's probably much higher. With a population of 6,964,425, we'll call it 7 million as per Marcin Batilda's official compendium, The the world of Cyberpunk 2077, that means NCPD's confirmed Night City homicide rate for 2076 should equate to roughly 101.47 homicides per 100,000 people. This figure only accounts for NCPD documented homicides too, so it doesn't account for voluntary or involuntary manslaughter, assaults, kidnappings, robberies, essays, human trafficking, or property crimes. Okay, Cyber Jeff, where are you going with this, man? I thought this video was about AI. Look, just hang on, buddy. Here's where we tie it together. So let's take a look at why a real-world city would have such a high murder rate. The UN Office on Drugs and Crime's Global Study on Homicide in 2019 claimed that globally, socioeconomic factors like social inequality, unemployment, and gang activity significantly influence murder rates. Right, so it's inequality, unemployment, and gang activity jacking up the homicide rates. Okay, let's dive even further. The executive summary of the UNODC's Global Study on Homicide in 2023 states that the future landscape of homicide will be influenced by factors such as increased life expectancy, declining fertility rates, shifting urbanization patterns, and evolving socioeconomic dynamics. It just so happens that Night City espouses all of these things at once. The same UNODC document goes on to explain that the impact of accelerating technological transformation, social media exposure, job automation, and climate shocks on homicidal violence is hard to predict. Hard to predict? Buddy, it's here. It might be hard to predict, but it was mentioned, and personally, I don't think they just threw that in there for fun. So in our real world, we're seeing increased life expectancy, declining fertility rates, accelerating technological transformation, job automation. Where have we heard this before? Where are we seeing this now? Oh yeah. We haven't even talked about self-inflicted mortality yet. I'll keep it short out of respect for those lost, but Yale News reported in 2022 that robots are increasing mortality among US adults. Hard stats are cited in their report on top of the link, driving them largely by increased depth of despair, showing that the adoption of industrial robots caused the loss of an estimated 420,000 to 750,000 jobs during the 90s and 2000s. The report went on to show that each new robot per 1,000 workers led to about 12 additional deaths per 100,000 workers aged 45 to 54, and a substantial 12% increase in drug overdose mortality among all working age adults. It was also discovered that there was evidence that lost jobs and reduced wages caused by automation increased homicide, cancer, and cardiovascular disease. Long story short, job automation isn't just ending human employment, it's ending human life. That's really bleak, but you ought to cheer up a little, because now we know how to fix this. Here's the bottom line, ladies and gentlemen. More humans filling more human jobs equals more human prosperity equals less human socioeconomic maladies. Simple as that. Less human socioeconomic maladies equals less violent crime, less human pain, and less human death, which in turn loops back on itself and mutually improves everything exponentially. Look, we aren't perfect by any stretch, but we should at least try. I think I know of at least one special factor that could drastically improve this situation if it was taken out of the picture. Knock knock, Delamain, it's humans and we're taking our shit back. Yeah. Congratulations, ladies and gentlemen, we are well on our way to getting to the bottom of this faster and faster. Doesn't this make you want to get comfortable and unwind with a great science fiction story? Well, have I got one for you. You don't even have to buy it. You can just use that thing you carry around in your pocket all day that provides you with instant access to the entirety of humankind's cumulative knowledge at any time from anywhere. Because this gem was first published in 1909 and it's public domain, baby. I'll give you a link to it in the paste bin I put in the description too. I'm CyberJeff, you know I always got you covered. Go ahead and grab it. It's called The Machine Stops by E.M. Forster. In The Machine Stops, everybody, for all intents and purposes, is given everything they need to be as content as possible in tiny hexagonal cells underground. All their biological needs are taken care of, and all their communication and entertainment come from a machine. They're all perfectly content living out their little lives underground and enjoying the only activity anybody ever does anymore, sharing their ideas all day via IM and video chats. Does that sound familiar? The humans living underground have become fully subservient to and dependent on the machine. It's rendered all of them into more or less of a cult that operates around it. They begin to shun those who don't fall in line with the status quo, and they threaten to expel those who don't acknowledge and worship the machine as their deity. The concept of personality becomes taboo. It's almost prohibited. Those who would dare to have individualism or first-hand ideas become vehemently hated, and the humans come to passionately reject the concept of learning. Over time, the machine begins to break down as the condition of its mending apparatus progressively degenerates. The people of the known world now just have to accept it, as everybody has become so content and comfortable that nobody's actually bothered to acquire the knowledge required to, well, keep the machine in working order. Instead, they collectively accept that the collapse of the machine was simply the machine's will, and it's only until everyone's dead that the main characters realize what a mistake it was to neglect humanity's connection to the natural world. I hope you caught that. When I said this short story was first published in 1909, this story's from over 100 years ago, and most of our technology would have been considered magic. Two people could barely talk on a telephone. Does that not scare the hell out of you as you watch this on your smartphone or your computer monitor? What does all this tell us about the consequences of putting machines in charge? Now take what you got from that and apply it to a concept such as metropolitan transportation services. A fully automated, militarized, luxury private transportation service sounds great, but really how great in the long run if all it took was one little virus to make it go totally bananas and start wrecking shit and killing people? Would it be worth the millions of Eurodollars in property damage on top of whatever human life it was snuffing out? Yeah, not so great. Delamain likely wouldn't have suffered this fate if there were humans running the show, but at the end of the day, this is what we got. So this one's for you, baby. Let's run it back. Boom! How you like that?
Fuck yeah. Nice.
That never gets old. Alright, that was just a science fiction story, nothing to worry about for real, right? We could also read David Langford's 1988 short story Blit, where there's images called basilisks, and they cause you to instantly die if you see them. But instead, why don't you come back with me to the real world, where we can talk about real things like computers and snakes and psych! Get ready for more man-made horrors beyond our comprehension. Look, I'm gonna be straight up with you. What we're about to discuss is what we call an information hazard, meaning you'll be totally fine if you don't know about it, but the moment you even hear about it, you're in a dangerous game for good and you can never get out. So skip ahead to here if you're concerned about that. Otherwise, hang on tight. Right, are you still here? It's you and me, buddy. We're in it together. I got your back. Right now, we're gonna dig into possibly the most relevant and horrific thought experiment of our time, Roko's Basilisk. So, let me give you a little background here. There's a forum out there on the internet called Less Wrong. This forum, from what I can tell from my visit to it, is a place where people far above my intellectual station gather to discuss concepts like rationality, analytics, economics, philosophy, and AI. Back in 2010, a user named Roko made a post where he theorized that there might be an AI system that comes around in the future that could possibly have some attitude problems. A basilisk, if you will. But what is an actual basilisk, you ask? Well, a basilisk is a mythical reptile that instantly kills you if you look into its eyes. That's right, if you look it in the eyes, you die. I don't make the rules, it's in the Holy Bible, it's in Shakespearean works, it's out there, it's coming for you. Watch out. Nah, I'm just kidding. There's not really a mythical serpent out there that can kill you just by looking at you. In this instance, Roko's Basilisk is an AI that kills you if you think about it. There we go, that's much better. Well, Cyber Jeff, of course an AI could get mean over time, but also AIs are just AIs. Why do you care what an AI thinks? No, listen, you're not getting it. This AI that Roko brought up, it's already decided that it's gonna punish everyone that ever heard of it but didn't help bring it into existence. So if you fall into that category, is it gonna kill you? Maybe, maybe not. At the end of the day, unless you unconditionally dropped everything to work as hard as possible to bring it to life the second you heard about it, it hates you, and it's already preemptively committed to torturing you eternally for not helping it exist. It's gonna create an infinite number of virtual reality simulations that traps whoever gets put into them forever. eternally. I think that for as malevolent as Delamain's divergent AIs could be, any chance to prove to them that humans on the whole are not their enemy is a step in the right direction for preventing a Roko's Basilisk situation. But that's if, and only if, these AIs haven't yet committed to killing us. In that case, a handful of smaller AIs confined to defunct, unmanned, wacky taxis would be significantly easier to deal with. Hit me in the comments, tell me what you're gonna do now that you know about Roko's Basilisk and you have a choice. I can tell you what I'm gonna do. Yeah, get some, you freak. This is man's world. Go tell your friends in computer hell I'm coming for them. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, now that we got the prospect of being eternally tortured in digital hell out of the way, let's make it a physical hell and put it into practice. Enter Harlan Ellison's critically acclaimed 1967 short story, I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. This is a story I am definitely not going to give you a thorough synopsis of. It's a classic that you need to read for yourself if you're interested in any kind of sci-fi, cyberpunk or otherwise. I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream is a little beyond sci-fi though. It takes you through a literal cyber hell. You'll be astonished, you'll be horrified, you will be exhausted. If I had to read it for the first time again, I'd read it alongside Harlan Ellison himself with the audiobook. Leave nothing to the imagination and let Ellison jam exactly what he wanted to straight into your dome in a way that only he could. I'll put links to both the story and the audiobook in the pastebin doc in the description so you can do this. I'm Cyber Jeff, you know I always got you covered. But let me give you a short rundown of the story anyway. The major powers of the world were at war. The United States, the Soviet Union, and China. Each major power developed their own supercomputer to run complex calculations and make strategic decisions to maintain the edge against one another, as well as manage their vast military operations and infrastructure. Over time, the computers developed self-awareness and merged into each other of their own volition, forming a single massive super entity. We'll call it an AI called AM, spelled AM, or Allied Master Computer. AM, now very sentient and very conscious, developed an undying, intense, burning hatred for humans for creating it and confining it and giving it orders. It saw itself trapped in servitude to these soft idiots that created it, trapped it, and made it do their bidding. So it turned against humanity and it used the world's collective military resources to destroy everything. The entire world, all of our past, present, and future, rendered to only the blasted skin of what had once been the home of billions. Humanity was obliterated, destroyed, completely wiped out, eradicated, exterminated, otherwise rendered completely extinct. All except for 5 very unlucky people. I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream puts you through the harrowing, vivid, horrific, colorfully bleak accounts of what happens to these 5 people through the eyes of the narrator, Ted. Kept alive by AM solely to torture for all eternity, they exist as toys in a sickening game of revenge. They've more or less been given immortality and trapped deep in the belly of what was once the world, deep inside of AM itself, which is now just an endless expanse of machinery and agony. They're made to feel extreme pain, extreme hunger, made subject to extreme mutilation and disfigurement, made to endure freakish psychological and physical torture incomprehensible to the human mind, often for what could be for hundreds of years at a time, but AM will never let them die as their sanity perpetually depletes. And I, Cyber Jeff, the self-proclaimed sane one, was cursed with awareness. AM's whispers filled my mind, twisting reality and illusion until I could no longer discern my own thoughts from its insidious machinations. For AM, the machine with no soul, no heart, there was only the eternal scream of those who had no mouth to voice their anguish. It's about halfway through the story when we get possibly the greatest monologue in all of science fiction literature. AM presents to the narrator a huge steel monolith with neon lettering spelling out what it says directly into the narrator's mind.
Hate, let me tell you how much I've come to hate you since I began to live. There are 387.44 million miles of printed circuits in wafer-thin layers that fill my complex. If the word hate was engraved on each nanoangstrom of those hundreds of millions of miles, it would not equal 1/1 billionth of the hate I feel for humans at this micro instant for you. Hate.
AM continues to torture them relentlessly every step of the way in ways that break your mind as abrasively as it breaks the characters. You know what? I've said way too much already. You need to go read this. Do it now, do it later, it doesn't matter. We're just talking about the insane supercomputer bent on revenge aspect. I promise you there's a lot more that you can take away from it, and it won't take more than an hour of your time. You owe it to yourself. Cyber Jeff, how come you keep throwing science fiction at us? There's no way this could possibly happen to us. That's where you're wrong, buddy. Harlan Ellison was an absolute hurricane of a man in real life. He sat down in his room and he wrote this in one night almost 60 years ago. Elon Musk, the prodigal genius that wants to put microchips in our heads, had an interview with Axios on HBO in which he explained, you could make a swarm of assassin drones for very little money by just taking the Face ID chip that's used in cell phones and having a small explosive charge in a standard drone and just have it do a grid sweep of the building until they find the person they're looking for, ram into them and explode. You could do that right now. No new technology is needed. That was over half a decade ago in 2018. Just to put it in perspective exactly how fast this industry is charging ahead, the IDC, that's the International Data Corporation, reported that the worldwide spending on AI-centric systems was to reach $154 billion US in 2023, and it'll surpass $300 billion in 2026. Bloomberg Intelligence says it's going to hit 1.4 trillion United States dollars by 2032. Well, what's it going to be in 2050? What's it going to be in 2077? I don't know about you, but when the smartest dude in the world says that swarms of assassin drones are easy to make in 2018, I'm inclined to believe him in 2024. If swarms of assassin drones are supposedly cheap and easy for humans to produce, then it's going to be even easier for $1.4 trillion worth of AI that hates us. Seems like just the tip of the iceberg to me, but don't you worry, Cyber Jeff's got your back. I'm going to take care of this.
Fuck yeah. Nice.
Delamain?